Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Computer America Show. I hope that you're doing well and you are ready for today's program because we have Nathan Evans. He is managing editor of Popzara.com. If you haven't heard about them, well, hey, this is going to be a great show because, we're going to talk a little bit about what him and his excellent team of writers are doing over there. And it's a great place to find, an eclectic mix of movies, books, games, hardware reviews, tech products. Ladies and gentlemen, they have a little bit of everything that you should definitely check out. And with that being said, we have the managing editor who helps us with, not just big events, but also just our regular show where we, kind of go over the day's headlines and just have a nice, relaxing conversation. That's always a lot of fun with Nathan about what's kind of making waves in the tech world today. So with that being said, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything. Super important for the show because it's for the show notes. If you want to check out anything that we talk about, if you want to fact check us, make sure that we're not just making it up on the spot, which we never do, I promise. But if you want to do that, the show notes will have everything that we talk about with links and, of course, the video archive, the audio archive. You can find that on all the podcasting services. And hey, why not just check out the Computer America website because we just refreshed it and it's looking spiffy. And you may notice a lot of our old links if you have some favorite episodes or some show notes that you've been meaning to check out. Those links are going to start breaking, but that's okay. You can come out to wherever podcasts are heard. You can find our most recent 600 episodes. And then you can check out our YouTube channel where you have up to, I think back to 2016 is how far back the YouTube channel goes. And that's all of our interviews and all of our past stuff. But as far as the website goes, it's pretty much the most recent stuff and we're working on filling it out. But give it a look. We think it looks great and it's, works on mobile. That's cool too. So with that being said, let's go ahead, bring Nathan on and just get talking about a bunch of different stories, including why Apple will never release iOS 19. Scary stuff, I know. So welcome back onto the program once again, Nathan Evans. Nathan, how you been?
What's up, Ben? Welcome back. Google Meet, my first time. I'm in love.
And that's actually a good thing to kind of point out too, because you may notice some pretty distracting words on the screen, but Nathan, I've been very impressed with the transcribing. Like one of our other guests, Ralph Bond, he does a lot of science and tech, very science heavy, medical heavy kind of jargon in our shows when we do our shows together. And it's able to catch it very good.
Don't use such technical terms as like science things. You got to use science stuff.
Science stuff and things. Yes.
But intellectual things.
I'm very impressed with the transcription, and I figure, it's for people who just really can't listen to it, that well. Maybe the video with the words up there on the screen might be able to help. So, hey, we have that now.
It's very accurate.
Very accurate, and I was wondering like what happens when two people speak over each other, and it catches that as well. So, very cool stuff. But anyways, Nathan, let's go ahead. I have the wrong picture up. There we go, Popzara. So for anyone out there who may be joining us for the first time, because our shows are so few and far between, let's go ahead and tell the nice folks what they can find over at Popzara.com.
Well, I love this question because every time I try to figure out like a different angle to it. That's like trying to say like this delicious watermelon. Explain it. I was like, well, it's a delicious watermelon. No, it's Popzara, as we all know. It's a little this, a little that. It's a little Bizarra, a pop culture. Primary focus, of course, on movies, games, technology, books, that sort of thing. Very, very, very light on politics. Something we need right now. Toot my own horn, but toot toot. try to keep the snark to a little bit of a minimum. Try to keep things a little positive. Look at that on the front page. You had ET in close encounter. ET. When's the last time you saw ET on the front page of a website? That's positive right there. Positive.
Too long.
I was thinking about that. We could talk about ET later because no spoilers. There's a podcast about it. But have you seen ET?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. They don't make them like that anymore. Like, can you imagine them making a children's film in 2025 where the main character literally dies on the operating table and there's surgeons threatening to dissect him? Like, we have lost so much.
There's an entire like, and I don't know the term for it, but there's a genre of like 80s movies that, born in the 90s, I kind of got handed just through family and friends. I got handed just a select few. E.T. was one of them, but like the Goonies, I didn't watch. Some of the old, nostalgic, like greatest hits from the 80s, I missed a lot of it, but I can say, and I either blame Seth MacFarlane through Family Guy or just general pop stuff, or Seth Green through Robot Chicken and stuff like that. Like, I have seen so many references to all of this stuff that I feel like when I do catch these things for the first time, it's like I'm rewatching it because everything from the 80s has been referenced a million times. That
is true. I liked how you say you were handed, like, this is your inheritance.
Pretty
80s
much.
Nostalgia is your inheritance. I will say this, that we've been through 80s nostalgia for like 20 years now. They are trying to do 90s nostalgia, and with the release of like the new Lilo and Stitch film that came out last week, made $1 bazillion. We are now into the aughts nostalgia, which is frightening to me. So like, I don't know if I want the aughts nostalgia because there's not a lot worth nostalging for. So, but I don't know.
Good stuff is going to stand the test of time, and hey, there's good stuff. So,
well, it's funny. A big story this week, not worth talking about, of course, but like the BBC, of course, is rebooting Harry Potter, and they've been bragging about the cast, and the cast is, it's interesting. A lot of Americans, John Lithgow is Dumbledore. I think the most inspired one is like Nick Frost is going to be Hagrid, but they showed off the new trio of kids, Harry, Hermione, and Ron, and they look like babies. They're so young, but Harry Potter wasn't that long ago. Like it's not old enough to be nostalgic. You know what I mean? It's not old enough yet, and it's like at some point we're going to have nostalgia for the nostalgia.
Well,
and it's going to cannibalize itself.
So and since we're talking about movies and stuff, we can get into the trio. Which, if you're watching the video portion, hey, we enjoy that you do. I believe these are the 3 new Harry Potter.
They're like infants. Look at them.
I think they are age appropriate for where the whole thing starts. I think they're like 10 or 11, so obviously not even teenagers. But they're about to embark on a job security that most of us only wish that we could have.
If it works out, unless if I could give these 3 kids advice, lawyer up, don't do drugs, and stay away from your parents.
Read everything that Friends did and just do what they did, because you still hear about how they group negotiated their contract. But and since we're talking about movies and TV shows, we can just take a quick little side just for me. I know this was announced like a month ago. Did you see the Wheel Time series that was just wrapped up like a month or 2 ago?
You mean canceled? Not wrapped up, canceled. So
season 3 wrapped up, and then they canceled any further production. So yes.
No, I didn't watch the movie either. I haven't read the books. I'll be honest with you. I have to say something. I want to clarify it because I know I'm going to get angry letters. You're going to get angry letters on my behalf. I won't get crap, but you'll get the angry letters. Like every time I mention Linux, you get your inbox explode. Like, how dare he insult Linux?
People like Linux. I don't know what to tell you.
People like a lot of things that are crazy, but no, Linux is fine. Linux runs the back. Look, okay, let me make my statement. Linux is fine. Linux is open source. We need open source. GNU for the win. Linux runs the backbone of the internet. Yada yada. Okay, see, I said I like Linux. Whatever. Go with God. But no. But I don't like fantasy. I don't hate fantasy. I don't have anything against fantasy.
That is
But
a
it's like,
bold claim, for
but
sure.
it's like football. It's like football. It's like sports. It's like I appreciate it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just not my cup of tea. And I know with the Wheel of Time and that whole series, I think Nicole Kidman was in the movie version, I think, years and years ago.
I don't think it ever had a movie version. That's
It
what I
did.
was.
Oh, it did.
Did it?
It was a big thing. It just
Wheel
didn't
Time
do very well.
movie?
Yeah.
Did it?
See, I'm the one who doesn't like fantasy, and yet you're the one who doesn't know.
I read the books growing up. I mean, like I have a huge amount of nostalgia for the books themselves.
Let me make sure. Let me make sure this is a movie. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
What was the one with Nicole Kidman?
Age of Legends film, is that maybe where? No, I think that's a fan film.
I thought the Wheel of Time. Maybe I'm wrong. See, this is how much I don't like fantasy.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think
no.
but no, there was a TV show that finally got produced, and the first 2 seasons were very much affected by COVID, and they were very, very mediocre at best. But yeah.
What's the one with the polar bear? Do you remember the polar bear?
The one with are you talking about the Golden Compass?
Yeah, I guess I can't tell them apart. They all look the same.
Golden Compass is like young adult, and Wheel Time I would say is solidly high fantasy. So
there was this one series that came out as a book because for those who don't know, they always start off as a book. Like that's how they germinate. If the book has any interest, if the book has any success, because the book, let me put it this way, books don't cost anything to produce. They pump these things out. It's how Hollywood is. Like I don't want to bore the listeners, but let me put it this way: the book industry is a subsidy of the Hollywood industry. Let's just say that. I'll be kind. But no, what I was going to say is that there was this one series, I think it was called Book One of the One Saga, and it's just they just don't even know how to name these things anymore. Huh. It's like the epic trilogy that hasn't been filmed yet. Right. It's I don't know. Well, I apologize. I got it wrong.
No, you're good. But yeah, they canceled Wheel of Time, which kind of sucks because season 3 is actually very, very good, and that's just I want to get that on the record. Was I enjoyed season 3 a lot as a big fan of the books. They did a lot better with season 3, and then they canceled the whole thing. So yeah.
Well, it's so funny because I think the ratings for the Wheel of Time were better than like Lord of the Rings. Or the completion rate, but Lord of the Rings cost $1 billion or whatever they call it, and nobody seems to really like it. Like it's tolerated, but nobody likes the show. I mean, it's got its detractors, but nobody likes the show. And there are shows on Netflix that cost less than your podcast to produce that get better ratings, and it's like Amazon doesn't seem to know how to. They do what Apple does. They don't really worry about ratings, so they just throw gobs and gobs of money at intellectual property. And they don't seem to care about quality or longevity.
Oh, longevity, I think is a big thing there because they didn't continue this. They threw once it started getting good. I've read stuff online that they're like, well, if people are suddenly interested in season 3, they're of course going to go back to season 1 to watch it. And as soon as they watch season 1, they're like, this is dreck. Why would I even finish, watching this? Or, why would I wait till it got good? And then they kind of drop off. And I'm like, at that rate, it seems like if you have a bad season 1 and season 2, why even bother continuing? And it's and also why do the Netflix thing of wait for it to get popular and then just cancel it anyways? That seems to be Netflix things as well. So.
I was talking to a friend about this the other day about how fantasy shows used to look like the Xena Warrior Princess days. See, Xena was very popular. And there was a show that came on 10 or so years ago called Shania, or not Shania Twain, but Shanarana or Shippy Shoppy, or I think it was Sha in it. Uh-huh. And you look at all these fantasy shows that were filmed before the streaming stuff, and every single show looked like it was filmed in the back lot of a high school. Like the grass is always manicured. Like their idea of a quote unquote forest was like some woods. And the costumes all look like they came from TJ Maxx. But
the location scouts did not travel far, for sure.
But these were budget shows, right? Like Sam Raimi produced a lot of these things, but they were always kind of popular. They were fun because it had adventure, it had characters, and it had wit. And I think the streaming era defocused that, and it focused more on spectacle and effects because everything wanted to be Lord of the Rings. Everything had to be high production values, right?
Yeah.
And so you have these shows that are hugely expensive, but the focus is still genre. what Game of Thrones did, Game of Thrones gave everyone the idea that any fantasy could be popular, instead of focusing on the very thing that made Game of Thrones popular. And you know what that was? The very thing that made Game of Thrones popular is the fact that it wasn't Lord of the Rings. It was not a nice show. It was not a nice show. Yeah.
It struck a very mature tone compared to a lot of other fantasy where it's just, hero saves heroine and, it's, very Shrek-ish kind of thing. But no, Game of Thrones was very popular, and then of course an unsatisfying ending. But then you're right, you're right, but also there's only a handful of, I guess, big stories out there, like big books that are internationally recognized. There's there's Wheel of Time, there's Lord of the Rings, there's Game of Thrones. There's probably like a dozen or so IPs that you can do this to. So
let me give some homework to the listeners. Go to a bookstore. They still exist, by the way. Bookstores still exist. Okay,
I was just in one the other day for sure.
Yeah, like Barnes. Let's just say Barnes and Noble. Go to Barnes and Noble and go to the fantasy section, and you'll notice the fantasy section is probably adjacent to the manga section, and it's probably really close to the romance section. And what happened is, and I'm not trying to be offensive by this, but we have so microtized and analyzed demographics that we have decided that the demographics of fantasy have to be a certain thing. They have to be like women, younger and older women, like YA. Same with witches and werewolves and sexy Bigfoots. By the way, sexy Bigfoot is a genre, not a big one. Yeah, Bigfoot erotica exists, but go figure.
Things you didn't want to learn on the show. Well, there you go.
But what happens is, instead of trying to appeal to mass market, they've microtized it, and already fantasy was already niche. It was already a niche, and they've made it more and more and more niche. The problem is that Lord of the Rings was not niche. It was considered literature, even though it's fantasy. It appealed to everybody. Game of Thrones, again, appealed to pretty much everybody. It struck a chord. These other things need to remember they don't have to do that. All you have to do is appeal to a niche, and you'll be fine. But you're not going to have that $1 billion budget. You can't have that, because it will kill your show. Because you are not going to get 50 million people watching The Wheel of Time. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I think that's where Netflix really is, so dominant in the streaming space, is because they recognized long ago that, you can have your one or two Stranger Things, you can have your this, that, or the other that really make headlines, but then you also have, 100 other things that come out every single month that are, crap. They're just not very watchable, but that's okay because you got the catalog, and not everything needs $1 million budget.
I forget who said it. Was some TV executive years and years ago. He talked about crap. He said networks produce prestige television. They produce prestige showing. The Merchant Ivory, they miniseries, prestige stuff, but they also produce crap because more people watch the crap. Because more people will watch the serial killer documentary, or the contestants who screw each other on an island, or the cooking show. They like that stuff because that's comfort food. You can tune in and out of that stuff. You don't miss anything. You can put that show on TV. You're not missing a damn thing when you do the dishes. Right?
As someone who grew up, we did have a housekeeper, and she always came over and put on her soap opera from Telemundo.
The stories.
So, she watched. I grew up watching Spanish soap operas on Telemundo, and
I love those.
Oh my god, I've never seen two of the same episodes because they produce so much of it.
I love Telemundo. I love Telemundo soap operas, because I deal with a lot of clients who have Mexican restaurants, and every time I walk into one of them and I see one of the programs, Mexican soap operas transcend language.
They do.
They are the only genre of entertainment that focuses on emoting more than anything else. You don't know any of the characters, you don't know anything, but you can tell exactly what's going on by how wrought everything is, and how
who wronged who and how awful everyone feels. But anyways, I bring all that up just because I think Wheel Time got the shafting, but that's okay. That's just my own personal.
I'm sorry for your loss.
No, well, okay. So I keep telling my wife this. Wheel of Time may have been canceled. Unlike, let's say, Game of Thrones that got a season 8, whatever. But I will say this. It will have something that Game of Thrones will never have, and that is a true ending. Yes, it's 14 books, and it's 15 if you count the prequel. But anyways, I've read those 15 books.
In the books, that has an ending, right?
Yes, it has a wonderful, very satisfying ending, and I don't believe Game of Thrones will ever get a satisfying ending.
Do you think George Martin actually wrote the books?
I think he wrote the first 2 or 3.
I know there's a conspiracy theory. Like there's this, if you're a big book reader, and every book, my bibliophiles out there, solidarity. But there's this weird thing that it's sort of a conspiracy theory that very famous writers don't write their own books. You probably heard this, right? It's kind of a half joke. Like, I think the most famous example in recent history was who wrote what's her name? Who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird?
To Kill. I don't know. Google knows though. Harper Lee. So, but a couple of years ago, there was a sequel or a sequel to Kill a Mockingbird that came out. Didn't she come out with a sequel like 40 years after she wrote?
A sequel came out. Can I say this?
Yeah.
And there was some controversy because Harper Lee was apparently suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. Like she was in a nursing home. Like she wasn't in right for. But they just found this manuscript.
You think the estate turned a manuscript into an old manuscript into a sequel?
Possibly, because how many dead writers do you know who still produce? Like more than Tupac. Like you still got what's his face who does all the Patriot games? No, what's his face? Tom Clancy, B.C. Andrews, all this stuff. Like dead writers, they're more prolific dead than they ever were alive. but the fact is, there's a thing, and there's some conspiracy theory that said that George Martin didn't actually write them, and the reason he can't produce the last one is because the original writer died, and he can't do it. But I don't believe that. But it's fun to talk about. I
think his books are incredibly. He's very passionate about his books, and I think he has lost all passion after finding other projects and other things to write for, and now that he has the option to write a book, because before, hey, you wanted a salary, you write the book. He has lost motivation.
I think there might be a more innocent explanation, is that he knows that in the history of long-awaited conclusions, in the history of, I took 30 years to do this, I took 20 years to do my passion project, there has never been a long-awaited follow-up that has been successful. It is always derided as too late, as
it
garbage.
Wasn't supposed to be long-awaited, though. It was supposed to be 3 years, and then 5, and then 12.
Look, God. You know what just got announced the other day? Elden Ring. We talked about Elden Ring, the game, which apparently he wrote the story.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Huge game, biggest game of 2022. Everyone, I loved Elden Ring. You love your wife loved Elden Ring. Your dog loved Elden Ring.
I have seen so much Elden Ring, I cannot tell you the story. It is written in circles.
Oh, no.
Who knows?
It is. Yeah, it is. I can't penetrate it. And as someone who got to the last boss, by the way, shame on me. I didn't beat the last boss, but I got to the last boss. My colleague Corey Gallagher made fun of me because I did it wrong. But anyway, long story short, they just announced a movie with Alex Garland, right? A movie with Alex Garland, the guy who, if you know Alex Garland, you should be happy. It's about as good as you're going to get. And so he wrote the story to that. It's like he can write everything else, but he can't do that, because I think if he writes the last Game of Thrones book, or whatever you want to call it, if he writes that, it's not going to live up to expectations, and people are going to go, "This is what we waited for." But by not doing it, it's immortal. You understand? Like by not writing it, it's bigger than because once he writes it, there's nothing more. But if he doesn't write it, then it's forever. It's forever.
I was just complaining of back pain the other day. I need whatever mental gymnastics that you're pulling right now on my back, because holy cow!
You ever heard the Chinese conspiracy?
Okay, that's getting into a completely different. Which one?
Guns N' Roses album. Is it the Chinese? No, Chinese Democracy. Chinese Democracy. So Guns N' Roses broke up. They had the 2 biggest albums of the 90s. Huge. Guns N' Roses, the biggest rock and roll band in the world. And they broke up. And they never made their follow-up album. And for years, they, some version of the band, for like 15, 20 years, they said, we're going to come out with a new album. It's going to be called Chinese Democracy. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. When it's coming? It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Eventually, it did come out like 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. It's like, But once it came out, it was no longer coming. And therefore, we no longer had that legacy. It's like, what if the Beatles had got back together? What if? And if they did, it sucked, right? But
Yeah.
as long as it's in that liminal state, as long as it's in that little window of never happening, then it stays important.
So here's the thing: as someone who read the first 4 books of Game of Thrones, I think he's rewriting the fifth, because like he's come out with the same version of the teaser of the 5th book like for the last 7 years. As someone who did get invested in the books, the show, I honestly got to like season 2 and I stopped watching. It was kind of whatever. But anyway,
with the Game of Thrones show,
yeah.
I made it to 6. I couldn't do 7.
Yeah, but like even so, like getting through the books, it's a very good story. He's obviously passionate about it. I did not like his responses to like, you have to finish this, because one of his lines that he pulled out was, if people keep getting crazy about this, I'll just call down a comet and kill everyone. Like I'll just blow up the planet.
He jokes about it now. Like, I think that's how he finishes it, by not finishing it, by calling to the fact that he's not going to finish it. Like, I think he's embraced this perpetual cycle that's never going to happen. But
yeah.
I will tell you this: we all have the show that ended abruptly, didn't have an ending. We all have it. But I'll tell you this: my final thoughts. The best show that ever was not allowed to end. It's so famous for being abruptly canceled. Like
Firefly.
There's been a lot of shows that have been given. Like Firefly was given a chance. They got a movie. Remember, it got a movie. No, this show is beloved. I'll tell you this: it's beloved. It's considered great. For some reason, it was not allowed to be finished, and it's become iconic because of that. And you know what it is? Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap was a great show. And what happened is that you know the premise: the guy leaps through time.
It got an ending in It's Always Sunny. So there's that.
Kind of. Yeah. By the way, that's one of the best episodes of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The one with Scott Bakula, where he's the janitor, and they discover that he's cleaning floors, and he starts singing. It's fantastic. That's one of the funniest episodes. Is that the musical episode where Danny DeVito turns black?
Yes.
That's okay. I take it back.
Where they do like a rendition of like The Wiz. Yeah.
Yeah, and he starts singing because he's so happy he can say a certain word.
Yeah.
By the way, I take it back. That is the best episode of Always Sunny.
It's a very good one.
But that and the couch episode. Remember the one where he gets out of the couch?
Yes, where he crawls out the leather sofa. That one was good. My personal favorite. My personal favorite was probably the suburbs, when they move out to the suburbs and they go crazy.
Good show. Never fell off. Fell off.
Yep. Still going.
20 years.
Still going. So anyways, you were saying Quantum Leap was one that got famous for not finishing.
He got canceled because he leaped and they ended it and they never got to finish it. So they literally put a title card that said he never came home. And they revived the show. They made a reboot of the show a couple of years ago, and everybody thought, "Oh no, they're gonna finish it." They didn't, because the reboot was canceled. And so Scott Bakula is leaping forever. What a horrible ending.
So, anyways, all of that I bring back around to the first story that we're going to talk about today. Even though we've talked about so much, and we're going to talk about the story from Ars Technica that you pulled from, although other people are reporting it, saying that amid rising prices, because, ladies and gentlemen, if you're like, millions of people that sign up for these things, streaming prices have gone bonkers. They are trying to, and you're going to see it more and more, because you have, especially with the ingrained cable companies, NBC, CBS, whoever's propping up cable television right now, they are making that painful transition. So what was before a side project is now painfully obvious. This has to become our main source of revenue. And you have streaming services that are raising prices several times a year. I think the highest tier of Netflix is up to like $23 or something like that, 25. It's pretty ridiculous. Like that's almost a cable bill.
The contracts mean nothing to these people, by the way.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee of anything. You can't lock anything in.
Yep. So with that being said, you had, let's see, I pulled it up. I think I have it. I'll just duplicate this. Anyways, amid rising prices, Disney Plus and Hulu offer subscribers some freebies. And I'm sure that you're going to have an ad every 2 minutes, but that's okay because Hulu's going to be Hulu. So you pick the story out. Did you just want to talk about, kind of streaming services in general, or was it just, hey, you can get freebies and that's cool?
Well, I was going to say, this is not new. Like, if you have Prime's a good example of this, because Prime started off relatively inexpensive and it bloated. And because of Amazon, they've offered like tiered services. Like, for example, if you have Amazon Prime, you get Grubhub, quote unquote, for free.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know that, log into your Grubhub account with your Amazon account. Because what's happening is you're sharing your data analysis with them. That's what it is. This is not Amazon or Google or Disney offering a free service. This is them whoring your personal data out to a third-party company. This is a new version of advertising, because what they're doing is they're trading your privacy for a service. That's what it is. But they're calling it a perk.
It's the classic of, if you're not the customer or whatever, you're the product. Like, if you're not paying for it, then someone else is paying for you.
Well,
pretty much.
Every time I order something off Fandango, right, the movie site, I get 3 more months of Apple TV. I don't think anybody is paying for Apple TV. Right? Like, I don't think anybody's paying for it. Every time I buy something, I get a free trial for 6 months or whatever. Don't do any of that crap. That's a trap. That's a trap. It's like Admiral Akbar. It's a trap. Don't do it. But
the simplest thing is to buy an $1,800 iPhone and you get Apple TV for 1 year for free. That's a little trick from me to you.
You can watch. By the way, we talked about Wheel of Time being canceled, but Apple's really different, because Apple is the richest company in the world. They produce shows that get very, very few ratings. Like, people talk about them. People talk about Ted Lasso and they talk about Severance, but nobody's actually watching them. Like, we have no metrics, but by all accounts, they're very low ranked shows. But
it feels like Apple is making
money.
stuff that goes for like awards and critic awards and
that's exactly what they are. They're buying prestige.
Yeah.
That's not to say the shows aren't good. I kind of admire the fact that you have this rich, megasly famous rich company that's spending, nobody else would spend that money on these shows. So if you look at Apple TV shows, they're mostly sci-fi. You notice that? Like, really good looking sci-fi shows. Like, the budgets are really nice. The shows tend to be okay, but they're genre shows, but they're really expensive genre shows. Netflix would never do. They would cancel that stuff, and by the time the first episode came out, canceled. But Apple's like, we got money. We got money. No one's paying for our service. They're like, Apple TV is a perk. Speaking of perks, that's what it is. Yeah. And I think Apple TV is a perk the same way Grubhub is a perk for Disney Plus.
So and this article takes you to perks.disneyplus.com, and just kind of poking around today. Obviously, you're going to have little perks like Disney branded merchandise and Disney cruises and whatnot. But also it's going to give you DoorDash coupons. It's going to give you Clear Plus, which what was Clear Plus? Is that a nationwide network? What was that? I remember what service that is. Anyways, and then Adidas as well. So,
Adidas! I can't wait.
I know, but no, it seems like they're trying to do the Amazon thing where you already get the service and they're trying to entice you to be like, well, I checked this out and what a good value this is. So.
I have one piece of advice. If you cannot live without Disney Plus, you cannot live without it. You need it. You absolutely need it. And
some people have kids, Nathan. Some people have kids.
Let me put it this way. I'm not going to say who, but I have an editor who's one of the best writers I've ever worked with, and he knows who he is. And I know as soon as one of those Disney movies comes out, he is going to review it, because he's got 3 kids. And
there you go.
Whether he likes to or not, he's going to these things. Like, we could talk about this later, but last weekend, Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible both came out. It was, and by the way, huge. Both movies, giant, right? It was another Barbenheimer, right? Huge movies. And you have to think about it. And I saw people get mad, like, oh, Lilo and Stitch. No, Lilo and Stitch is a babysitting movie. It is a babysitting movie. It is not on the same level as Mission Impossible. These are different things. They are different things, right?
Yep.
So Lilo and Stitch making all this money is great. It means theaters are back. Mission Impossible, a movie that cost $400 million to make, making bank, is great. This is good. The more money movies make in theaters, the better for everything. People don't understand this. Popular movies subsidize less popular movies.
Yep.
And that's what the streaming stuff is. So here's what I say. Here's my advice, and I'm 100% right on this. If you can't live without Disney, you can't live without Hulu. By the way, the Disney Hulu package, best deal for that stuff. It's like $20.
When are they just going to wrap that whole thing in? Because right now you can watch Hulu within Disney, but also Disney owns like 60% of Hulu.
Let me put it this way. Disney Plus is the Microsoft Teams of streaming service. Like, they make something that should be so simple, complicated with an interface that doesn't make any sense. Like, you're right. If you go to Disney Plus, there is a tab for Hulu. But if you hit that tab for Hulu in Disney Plus, it only gives you a portion of Hulu. To get full Hulu, you need to download the Hulu app, logging in with your Disney Plus credentials to get the full Hulu experience. So, come on. It's stupid.
Yeah. So all of this is Disney is now offering you coupons for not, hey, we're trying to entertain you. It's, hey, look at our other services, look at our merchandise, look at our other stuff, and also look at our partners that we're partnering with. I guess just trying to extract value from
brand management. It's fine. That's totally fine. But here's what you need to do. If you really want to save money, look for the yearly subscriptions and get it. Grab that while it's cheap, because then you're immune to all these price hikes throughout the year, because they will hike the price up 18% month to month. And God help us if you want to talk about HBO Max or whatever the hell it's called. Mm-hmm. They don't know what they're doing. They have personality disorder. Like, one day it's HBO, next thing it's Max, next thing it's HBO Max.
All they had to do was keep HBO. That's all they had to do.
HBO's the brand name. That's the name. That's prestigious, not Max.
Absolutely.
When I think of Max, I think of Cinemax.
Skinemax, of course. No,
Skinemax,
but yeah. So Disney Plus, and just want to throw that out there for everyone. If you have it, you can check this out. Good advice. Just lock in year-long things, because streaming services, they're only going to get more expensive. I have never once seen, thanks to overwhelming demand, we're going to lower our prices. That doesn't.
That happened once. Actually, can I tell you something? We can talk about this later, but that actually happened this year.
Oh, yeah?
I was shocked. I thought I had died and gone to heaven. Like, I'll tell you about that in a second. But before we get on to that, I want to say you mentioned another show that you really liked, but had a very different outcome than The Wheel of Time. I know you talked about Andor. The Star Wars show. Andor, which is on Disney Plus, a show that by all accounts was great. Everybody seemed to like it. The people that watched it liked it.
Yeah.
But instead of being milked like a sow,
they had an endpoint. They had Rogue One that they had to wrap it up with and tie it into. They had a defined endpoint. So season 2 was the end of Andor, even though it was very critically acclaimed. So I did. I watched episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5 because they were releasing it 3 episodes a week. And then I never picked up 6. And Nathan, if you're going to get hate mail for the comments you made, I'm going to get hate comments for this. My God, what a boring show Andor is.
That's the thing. It's
so boring.
Can I tell you something? I have not watched Andor, but people I trust who have watched it, they here's the thing. Here's the duopoly of this entire business. Here's streaming in a nutshell. People have said for years that Disney has run Star Wars into the ground. And I would say, yeah, they have. They've destroyed it. But they've destroyed it with garbage. So they said, in order for Star Wars to be good, it cannot be Star Wars anymore. It can't be fun. It can't be lighthearted. It can't be adventurous. It has to be grounded in reality. It has to be mature. It has to be sour. It needs to be Game of Thrones. It needs to be all this stuff. So in order for Star Wars to survive, it can't be Star Wars. And you know what the fans did? They all said, yeah, I heard this show is great, but I'm not watching. So Disney can't win.
I watched Obi-Wan. It was
I'm sorry.
It was stupid. No. It was
like ugly.
The only cool part.
It was an ugly show.
The only cool part was the lightsaber fight at the end, and that's all I'll say. I watched some of The Acolyte. Did not finish that either, but that was because it was awful. I watched some of Ahsoka. I did not finish that. I have not finished like a Star Wars series in a long time. But Andor, the actors are brilliant. The writing is obviously going somewhere with something, and it's good. The scenes and the visuals are all fantastic. My God, every time the scene would start to switch, I'm like, I wonder if it's a meeting between two people that are going to talk in double speak, or I wonder if it's going to be a phone call with two people, or I wonder if it's going to be a board meeting with three people. And every time it was just another meeting, board meeting, phone call. It was boring.
Tony Gilroy is a great writer, and his heart's in the right place. The problem is that I've always maintained this, and I don't want to get into this because I'll get hate mail for this too. But Star Wars, for all intents and purposes, is a mythical fantasy for children that happened to be very open-ended for adults.
I always thought it was supposed to be like a space western,
A western, but it's not science fiction. It's like, what do you want to call it? Fantasy, mythicism, whatever. It crossed every genre you could think of. It was based on stuff, and it had a very, very nice localized story that was very fairy tale-ish. The characters were paper thin. They were cardboard cutouts. It was fantasy. It allowed you and me and anybody else to pretend they were Chewbacca or Luke or Hans or Lando. You could be anybody. You could even be Princess Leia because she was a badass. I don't care.
You could even be the stormtrooper that fell into the Sarlacc.
You could be the Ewok. Yeah. Yes. Roger Ebert, when he was reviewing Return of the Jedi back in 1983, he talked about that Sarlacc pit, the beginning where the big creature, Luke killed him with the gate, remember? The big thing. And then you saw his little master come out crying. He says, in Star Wars, everyone is loved by someone, right? What the Disney things have done, they've said, we can expand this. There's more to this universe. And yeah, that happened in books, that happened in games, but every attempt to expand it in the movies has failed because Star Wars is like a coat hanger. It's full. It's not about this. You can do it on your own, but when they try to canonize all this extra stuff, it's just not capable of doing that. It's too paper thin, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it had an end. It ended, and that's good. It's good. It ended.
Episode 9. Yeah, true.
That's why if you look at Star Wars, 90% of everything that came after was a prequel. Even Andor. Yep. Andor was a prequel to a prequel. Everything's a prequel.
It's cool that they want to explore and connect the pieces and connect the stories between one another. They're doing the.
I think it's terrible. I think it's awful. I think what George Lucas and his writers did, they allowed such open-endedness that you could fill in those blocks. And what all the Disney stuff has done, it's gone back and tried to, this is how Han Solo got his name and his dice. This is how Chewbacca met him. This is how this happened. And this. You can't visualize anything. This is the Balkan race. Oh, no, we're going to show it to you. We're going to show you what your imagination did just fine. And once you do that, you take away the whole reason to watch this show because you are no longer imagining you are Luke Skywalker. They're showing it to you. You can't have a new Luke Skywalker. We have to have an AI Luke Skywalker. We got to have AI Darth Vader voice. He's dead. We have to have all this stuff because you're not allowed to have imagination. We're going to think it up for you. And you know what? Your imagination sucks. My imagination is a lot better.
Although I will say, The Mandalorian was like the only Star Wars that I still follow. So
you going to watch the movie coming out? Grogu or whatever?
I did not know they had a. It sounds like it's more aimed towards kids, but still.
It's literally called The Mandalorian and Grogu. That's the name of the movie. Okay. Mandalorian and Grogu. But look. If people enjoy Star Wars still, but I would say, and I've made, and remember that writer I told you who's brilliant, who goes to see, he loves The Last Jedi. He thinks I'm wrong. I don't think so. I think The Last Jedi was the inflection point because you had a really, really gifted director, Rian Johnson, who tried to do something different. He did. He tried his best. He's a good director, but Star Wars can't support that. You can't do that. You join Star Wars. You have to adapt your style to it. You cannot bring that. You know who I think would have made a good Star Wars movie? Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino, because he understands genre. He understands that you don't need all this fuddy-duddy stuff.
I've heard the name. I know the name. Doesn't he just do Grindhouse?
No, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Django Unchained.
Okay. Those are really good. Yeah.
But if you listen to him, this guy's won Academy Awards. He's had Best Picture nominees. He's done actual films, but he's also done schlock. But he knows genre. And you can't take like Ryan Johnson. You can't take this director and expect to put this sort of weight on this. You can't have Andor expect to put this type of weight. It can't support it. So and because you're forcing it, you can't have a new series. You can't have a new series with new characters and stuff like that because you can't support it.
Did you watch Andor? Not yet?
No. Here's the thing. I don't watch new Star Wars. The last Star Wars thing I watched, I saw all the new sequels. I saw Revenge of the, or whatever the last one called, Rise of the thing I don't care about.
Rise of Skywalker, whatever. Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker. Garbage film. Garbage. Worst Star Wars movie ever made. Right? And the problem is that there's no joy. And I saw enough. I tapped into Obi-Wan a little bit. I tapped into Ahsoka. These shows are poorly made, poorly written, unfun, just lacking fun. And they're so ugly. They're so ugly. And they're so poorly acted. They are horrible. All that stuff I told you about fantasy back in the 90s, someone on a manicured grass, much more fun. Way more fun. Like Xena Warrior Princess, give me that all day long. Xena Warrior Princess is much better Star Wars show than Star Wars because it's fun. And it's not, these Star Wars shows are not fun. And I'm sorry, I don't have time for it. I've grown out of it and I'm sad.
I respect that you don't, and I actually had to hear that from, from other people in different aspects of their life. But honestly, Andor was the first one that I kind of did. It was like, if I'm not enjoying it, why would I finish it? And
can I say something? Mm-hmm. 1966. Batman, Adam West, goofy as hell. Goofy, right? Mm-hmm. Tim Burton Batman, much more serious. Christopher Nolan's Batman, way serious. Way serious, right? But people said, oh my God, it's too serious, right? And don't worry, wait a couple of years, then you have Ben Affleck Batman. Wacky.
It's too serious, and then they just did it again. So
yeah, because same with James Bond. James Bond, very serious. 10 years later, Moonraker, space, right? Space lasers and sharks. And then 90s, way too serious. I mean, not 90s, 80s, way too serious. And then it became goofy with Pierce Brosnan. And then with Daniel Craig, serious. Like you can ebb and flow if that's your intention. And maybe Star Wars will become fun again. Maybe it can be rebooted. It can be fun again, right? Maybe that's true. Anything can be rebooted. But what I'm saying is right now, I don't have time for a show that doesn't speak to me. There's other things in life. And why get angry? Just watch something else.
I hope everyone takes that to heart. And I truly mean that because I am one of those people that's like, if I'm going to start something and I enjoy it just a little bit at the beginning, I'm going to finish it. But
I'll say this. I
can't do that anymore.
Star Trek. Love Star Trek. I'm not a Trekkie, but I love Star Trek for the same reason I love Star Wars. I love the characters. And last 10 years, not been a good time to be a Star Trek fan. Some really bad Star Trek shows on TV, Discovery, whatever. But this new show called Brave New Worlds seems to have got the message. It's kind of going back. Maybe Star Trek can be saved again. Anything can be saved again. It's all fan fiction. All of it. And so, and if you don't like something, I mean, unless you're getting checks from the producers, unless you have skin in the game, you're not. I'm sorry. I'll just say this, Ben. You have no right to be offended. They don't owe you anything. Like, watch something else. Grow up.
But
move on.
Choosing a team and sticking with a team. That's always been people's things. Xbox, PlayStation, Mac, Windows. Like that's always going to be. Speaking of which, we're going to go ahead and pivot really hard here, Nathan, and we're going to move on. No. Honestly, the meandering conversations is
meandering.
Yes, very meandering, and I love it.
Andor?
No, but I really do enjoy that. But let's try to wrap like 3 of our stories into one little conversation real quick.
This wouldn't happen on Joe Rogan. We'd have 3 hours. So.
True. But until I have Joe Rogan on, we'll see what happens. Okay, so with that being said, we're gonna wrap I think we're going to talk about Apple and what they're going to do, what they're expected to do at the Worldwide Developers Conference that they're going to do, and then from there we're going to talk about Windows and their Xbox handheld, and wrap that into Switch 2 and all the pre-order woes and all the problems that are going on with Switch 2. We can talk about and summarize for people, and then from there, we'll do a couple other stories. But first and foremost, WWDC. And Apple. So Apple's going to rename all of its operating systems. That's
the rumor.
That's the rumor.
Yeah.
Whenever rumors kind of reach this level, it's pretty much true. I think they're going to, instead of iOS 19, which is the 19th major overhaul of the iOS mobile, Apple system, they're going to rename it to the current year. So iOS 25. They're pulling a Windows.
I was going to say, I'll say this. They're pulling a Windows, but they're pulling a Microsoft. Not just Windows. And I'll say this. For anybody who doesn't know, Apple, like every other company, not old Apple. Old Apple didn't care. They didn't care about this. But basically, every company out there hires third-party marketers, and they say, what names are big? That's why you have so many apps that have the word plus after it. Because plus is marketing. Everything's got to be plus, right? So what happens is, if you remember, 2005. Do you remember 2005?
What a great year! What a great year!
God, 20 years ago. We're going to be talking about this later. The Xbox 360 comes out. But it wasn't. But why was it called 360 when it was the second Xbox? Why was it called 360?
Because you turn 360 degrees and you walk away. Yeah.
I was going to say, even from a logical standpoint, makes no sense. Right? Makes no sense because it just means you're back where you started. But no, it's because Sony had the PlayStation 2 coming out, right? So
360 is much bigger than 2.
Sorry. Yeah. I make a mistake. Sony had the PlayStation 3 coming out.
Right.
So Microsoft couldn't have the Xbox 2 when Sony has the PlayStation 3. So they cheated. They put 3 in the title. They just called it 360. That's what they did. That's what it is. Marketing. And so with you were referencing Windows 9, which doesn't exist.
Yep.
Because 7, 8, 9. Get it?
There you
go.
So
because Windows 7 was beloved. People loved it, wouldn't let it go, like Star Wars, wouldn't let it go. 8 came out, maligned. And by the way, unfairly maligned, but maligned.
Unfairly, but also they were trying to do this weird amalgamation of mobile and one operating system.
Let's say this. Let's separate 8. 8 crap.
8.1, right?
No, 8.1 good. 8.1 good. 8 crap, because 8 was also 8 and 8 RT. Remember RT?
Does Microsoft even? Yeah.
Yes. And so Microsoft said, crap, what do? We screwed up the brand. So we're not going to do 9. We're going to jump to 10. And the funny thing about it is that at the time, everything was being called X. I don't know if you remember. Everything was X. X was 10. Again, part of the reason they went to 10 is because X and 10 were in the zeitgeist at the time. So we'll hop on the bandwagon. We'll call it 10. No one really cared. It was kind of fun. It was kind of, that's kind of clever. No one really cares about names. And so that's what they did. And there have been rumors for years that Microsoft was going to do what Apple's doing, that they're going to get rid of the numbers and just call it Windows.
I will say, and I knew this wouldn't be the case. I knew this wouldn't be the case from the get-go because of the marketing thing that you're talking about. Microsoft at the time said Windows 10 would be the last Windows operating system because they're just going to continuously offer it. It's going to be a system as a service, and they're going to keep updating Windows 10 perpetually. And I'm like, they would never, they could do that, but also the marketing department would never go for it.
Well, they've tried it, remember? So with Office split off into standalone purchasable suites.
365,
and the subscription was just 365. Now 365 makes perfect sense on the subscription. It actually makes sense. It fits because it's yearly subscription. But the problem is, what happens if you go and you want to buy the latest version of Office? Buy it. What is it? 2022, 2021? It already looks old. And I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but all this crap comes from, I think it's BMW. The guy who ran BMW created planned obsolescence. That's why when you buy a car, they name them after the years. If you buy a car that says 2025, that car was made in 2024. But they They up the year so it sounds futuristic, which is great, which means you have a limited window to sell a futuristic car. Because in 2026, that car was made in 2025. Like that's what Apple did. Apple learned this very, very well. And under Steve Jobs, he forego the number systems. That's why Apple stuff, for the most part, except for iOS, was never numbered. It was always given Sequoia or Mountain Lion or whatever. With iOS, they started numbering just because of versions. And I think had Steve Jobs not passed away, we probably would have saw this happen a long time ago, Ben. I think Apple, and I'm going to be a little critical here, Apple as a company, and I think other people have noticed this with Tim Cook, they're kind of in a bind. Like they don't seem to know what they're doing anymore in regards to like product marketing. Like there's been a lot of talk about Siri not being updated. Their rollout of Apple Intelligence has been really bad. The Vision Pro is
scrapped their
really
smart TV. They scrapped their car. Yeah. They're falling behind in AI. Yeah, no,
scrapping stuff is good. Scrapping stuff is good if it's not going to sell. But instead, let's just keep repackaging the same thing. And I don't think Apple would have started naming their operating system by the year, like if they were doing better. I think this is a marketing reality to keep the phones. This is a phone thing. This has nothing to do with Mac. They might do it, but it's nothing to do with Mac. Macs are selling pretty good. But no, this is a thing to keep their phones relevant. And that's what it's a marketing thing. It has nothing to do with, it's not going to change anything. And by the way, a few minutes ago, I told you there was a product that came out that actually was cheaper. And I told you it blew my mind.
Vision Pro, yes.
Oh, no.
Yes.
No. Apple has been producing MacBook Airs with their M chips. And for some weird reason, and I don't know what happened. I think maybe Tim Cook lost a bet. The new MacBook Airs are more powerful and cost less. They have double the RAM. So instead of being $1,200, they cost $900. Like the new 2025, get it? 2025 MacBook Air costs less than the 2024 one. And it has double the RAM. And this is not like a sale. This is just all around. They lowered the price.
That is pretty unusual for Apple, because I remember when I was helping Craig, kind of look at different things and just looking, like, in terms of what increases the price, almost like in laugh-in-your-face terminology, like the RAM is like, pick an Apple product,
crazy,
and then the RAM, you could have like 16 gigs and then 32 or whatever, 32 up to 64, and that like adds $400 every time you go up.
So the Macs went from 8 gig standard to 16. Their chips went up and their price went down. And I actually thought it was a mistake. I didn't believe it, but it's true. Like that's never happened before. So, and it happened from Apple of all things. We live in crazy times.
We do.
But going back to it, yeah. So if Apple starts changing their things to the yearly thing, it's not that big of a change, but it does signal that they've kind of lost some of the juice. Like, and by the way, we're going to talk about this before we go very quickly, but next week, Nintendo has the Switch 2 coming out.
Yep.
And there was a lot of hullabaloo. We've talked about it before. I thought they were going to call it the Super Switch. I said this on this show.
Yeah, you did.
Turns out I was right. Super Switch was the name. But they decided at the last minute to call it the Switch 2 for marketing. And all their marketing subsequently has been calling it the Super Switch. There's that commercial with what's his face, Paul Rudd.
Yeah,
did you
Paul
see
Rudd
it?
Recreating
everything is like superpower, super this. Just call it the Super Switch. But no, marketing says a product with a 2 after it sells better because it differentiates the product. It makes it clear this is a different product, a better product. 2 must be better than 1. So it's boring. It's very un-Nintendo. But you know what? They're going to sell a bunch of them because of it. So I don't know anything about marketing.
Yeah. Well, to kind of wrap up this particular story here with Apple and the WWDC, I mean, as always, Apple has their show for the consumer. They can have that later. The Worldwide Developers Conference is where they show off, kind of the software that goes onto the hardware. And based on the reading, based on the rumors, everything I can see, they're just going to rename everything. They're going to have some new features that are more AI in tune. And, they're kind of, I read somewhere that they're trying to mush everything towards the Vision Pro and like the Vision OS, make that more compatible on more services. But by and large, like this seems like a pretty nothing event that's about to happen. But
I would love it. I would love it if Apple just said, F it. Let's let AI run the company for a while. Let's see what they can do. They can't run it worse. Apple's not doing bad, by the way. They're not doing bad. But for any other company, they would be ecstatic. But from a company that sort of built their brand on innovation and built their brand on non-iterative products, it has been
being the leader in the field. For sure.
And to some extent, I want to go back to Nintendo too. It's like the disappointment doesn't come from the product; it comes from the lack of expectations. Like maybe that's our fault. Maybe we put too many expectations on them, like Star Wars. Maybe I expected it to be fun, silly me, right? But I do want a little of that like wackiness. Like that's what you kind of expect. Like what's wacky about it? What's different? And when you don't get the wacky, I get it. That's selfish. But when you don't get the wacky, you can't help but be a little disappointed.
You know, I'm kind of wondering if maybe that's just us being older and knowing what Apple used to be. I truly do wonder what an 18-year-old would look at Apple and say, oh, I want it to be sleek and cool and a status symbol and sexy. And like they don't want new or innovative or crazy. They just want something that looks. I wonder what other generations want from Apple, because everyone who grew up with Apple and knew Apple before Tim Cook is probably resonating very strongly with what you're saying. What about others? I don't know.
I don't think it's even necessarily Apple or Nintendo. I think it's anybody where the expectations has come in hindsight for innovation. Like, for example, Steven Spielberg, we expect a certain thing from him. Jim Henson, old Walt Disney, Pixar films, anything. When you don't always know how good you've had it. Like if you're listening out there, it is almost impossible for any company or any person to differentiate themselves within genres or differentiate themselves within cascading product lines over and over again. It doesn't really happen. And when it does happen, we talk about it in hindsight. We say, oh, that was the golden age. Oh my God, Disney made this and this. Oh my God, they did this and this. Oh my God. And at the time, you don't really appreciate that. You just expect it. Like you take it for granted that Toy Story 3 is going to be a masterpiece, or Up is going to be a masterpiece, or the Super Nintendo is going to have so many Mode 7, or Apple is going to have an iPhone and an iPad. But then when it becomes standard, you kind of forget what innovation feels like, because it was banned. Innovation does not make itself aware. Innovation presents itself at hindsight. Because, for example, we have so many products that are really cool and innovative, and they do great things that are totally rejected when they come out. Totally rejected. Sure. But we don't know what innovation is until it's already innovated. Like the Switch 2, for example. You put the control on the side, it becomes a mouse. Will that catch on? I don't know. What if it catches on?
Something can be innovative, but it needs to catch on for it to be innovative, because it can be innovative before, but if it doesn't catch on, then... Yeah,
well, I would say the Switch 1 itself was innovative, not because it was the most powerful, it wasn't. Not because it was the best, it wasn't. But it was the first thing it was a compact system like this that allowed you to take your stuff everywhere. And now every other company is falling over themselves to make something that's even halfway as decent.
True. That's some of the stories that we weren't going to get to, but one of them was that Xbox, Ekbak, is apparently... shelving their plans for a first-party Xbox-branded handheld console.
The rumor is that the rumored console manufacturer. but no, I mean, Acer actually showed off a prototype of it a couple weeks ago, and because we talked about this before, when it comes to this, the Xbox console is probably not long for this world. It's probably going to become a brand, which is fine. Like, I know people don't want to hear that, but I mean, when you have a $1 billion console that doesn't sell well, you're not long for this world. And when you have the Switch 2 coming out, will the Switch 2 be successful when it doesn't have that innovation effect? I don't know. And honestly, I'm not rooting against anybody. But what's innovative about it? I would say the Switch 2 is more iterative than innovative. And maybe that's what people want. Maybe people just want a better version. That's what phones do.
Maybe there's and maybe it does just take a leap in hardware or a leap in technology to crave that innovation, because right now, like, maybe people do just want a better version of what they have. There's not that need for innovation, at least as far as the Switch goes.
Well, one of your things we don't talk about Elon Musk a lot, but SpaceX example. We talked about SpaceX, and people forget how hard what that is, or SpaceX. That
it is literally rocket science.
Yeah, literally rocket science. And 10 years ago, when you and I were talking, people would cheer SpaceX. Oh my God, the rocket's reusable. But politics means that some people can't cheer that on anymore because of politics. And it's like we've all become polluted in a way, and we've all come to expect innovation just to come, because it's like every time you look at a time travel movie, oh, I'm in the future. We've cured AIDS. Cancer is gone, and I can fly in cars. It's just there's an expectation the future is going to be cool, but the answer is, but to get there, you have to be A, innovative, but B, iterative. Like the first version of anything that's innovative is not going to be great. It's going to be bad, and then it's going to get better, and then it's going to get better, and hopefully,
and then you're going to blow up rocket after rocket, and
exactly.
Hey, progress. That's progress.
And you're going to play your game, and you're going to spill Mountain Dew on it, and you're going to be like, and then someone's going to go, wait a minute, I got it, wet-proof game console, and you laugh, but they sell gamer desks that are wet-proof.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
And hey, Xbox Mountain Dew authorization code, and you can drink your Mountain Dew, and then you can play your game.
Microsoft has a long-standing deal with Mountain Dew. They really do. They really do.
Ever since Xbox 360, or even the original Xbox, just
you can
the
buy
green
Halo
coloring.
Points.
Yeah,
Halo
for sure.
Breakfast of Champions.
There you go. So, anyways, Microsoft is, and we won't really talk too much about the rumor, because you're right. This is a rumor about a rumor console. Microsoft not coming out with anything. So, it is what it is. Switch 2 pre-orders should be, you can do it right now. Supposedly, I heard that they canceled a bunch of them, and then you couldn't even place them with a lot of other ones. So supposedly, what is it? Pre-order updates ahead of the June 5th launch date. So June 5th, Switch 2, if you can get your hands on one, because it's looking like... Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but I have some good news. Okay, I don't want to spill the beans, but I'll spill the beans. Exclusive. So, not that I would ever tell anybody to actually set foot in one of these places, but GameStop, right, is going to start at 3 p.m. on the 4th. At 3 p.m., you can go in if you had a pre-order and pay your pre-order off, right? Or, and what they're going to do is they're going to have like 10 physical systems allocated. If you go in, and once the pre-orders are finished, if you're there at 3 p.m., you can, if they have it, you can buy a Switch 2 at 3 p.m. and then come back at midnight and pick it up.
That is very interesting. So 3 p.m. June 4th, go in, pay it off, buy it, reserve it.
If they have it. No.
Yeah.
If the pre-orders come first, so people who've already pre-ordered get first grabs. But if there's extra consoles, there's supposed to be 10 per store from what I hear. Then if you're in line, you may be able to pick up a Switch 2 that midnight if you prepay at 3 p.m. Best Buy will also be open at midnight. This is the first. People are very excited about this launch, and so this is crazy. Like there hasn't been a launch like this in 10 years.
Yeah, no.
So,
midnight launches just really haven't been a thing for a long time, but that's
I
super
miss
cool
them
that
a little bit. I do miss them.
Yeah, it's just a place where nerds get to all gather at the same place at the same time for a shared cause.
Just don't get robbed. But like personally, like the site and everything, we're gonna probably get something we're gonna have reviews. But personally, I mean, I'm excited about anything new, right? But the biggest game I'm waiting for the Switch 2 is the Donkey Kong Bonanza game. I'm really excited about that. But I know the tech people, the nerds, are going to be excited about Cyberpunk. It's a launch title because Cyberpunk will be, 2077 will be the first Switch game to use DLSS.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, and that makes the Switch 2 the first major game console to have DLSS super sampling. The PS5 Pro does not count because that's not a major console. That's an iterative. But for the Switch 2, which is already quote unquote underpowered, I mean, this is going to be really interesting to see how this thing performs.
I'm interested to see, just how much of a performance increase, because DLSS has a lot of claims that it doubles, triples performance in good cases. So hey, may look
Can I say
really
something?
good. Yeah.
I have my video card's not new or great by any metric. I have a
Mm-hmm.
card that's not even ranked for 1080p. I have a AMD Radeon 6600. Now
Mm-hmm.
you say to yourself, "Oh, you're a tech guy." Yeah, I'm a tech guy, so I like lower powered stuff. I'm not going to spend $5,000 on a video card. But every time I think about upgrading, FSR, which is DLSS for AMD, right, or super sampling.
Right.
For example, Doom: The Dark Legacy came out a week or so ago, right? And they said, "Oh, you need ray
Dark
tracing."
Ages, right?
The Dark Ages, one of the
Yeah.
Dark Doom. I'll just say New Doom, right? And
Mhm.
they say, "Oh, you need ray tracing," which my card does not have. You need this. You can't do this. All the reviewers say, "Oh, this." My card is old as dirt, not even close to the best card on the market by any stretch. And I was scared. I was like, "Oh no, I can't play the new Doom game." They did this with Indiana Jones. I couldn't play it.
Mhm.
Screw it, right? But I took the chance. I got it on Game Pass, and you know what? I tweaked it. I put on FSR. I get like 120 frames a second. The game is fine.
That's
I don't
great.
need ray tracing. And I said to myself, software optimization for the win. Like we don't talk about that enough.
You know what's
We
funny?
don't talk about it.
There's actually a problem with Elden Ring Night Rain.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that the newer high-end cards are having frame dropping, frame skips. It'll look like, kind of lag and whatnot. And they say, hey, go from maximum or high settings and go to medium or low settings. And it's only happening with the latest graphics cards. So yeah, an
Well,
older graphics card would handle it better than a newer one.
I don't want to like get on a soapbox here, but the fact is the industry is changing. Nvidia and AMD do not make any money off gaming. They make their money off AI and servers. Like
Hmm.
gaming is a very low priority for them. And the fact is your game developers are not developing for the high-end cards. They are not doing that because they're not going to sell anything. So they have to the industry right now is saying, how can we optimize software? And you've seen this a lot, especially on PC, where you had these really expensive $300 million games that don't work because they're not optimized. But then you
Yep.
have these lower budget games, like what's that game that came out 2 months ago? The 33, the Obsidian, or what's it called? The big,
Something
yeah,
Obscura or
yeah,
Expedition
Obscura.
Obscura, whatever. Yeah.
Low budget by all accounts, everything. Low team, works great. Game of the year for a lot of
Flare,
people, right?
Obscura,
Yeah,
Expedition 33. I'm sorry. Yes,
yeah.
that's it.
There was that card game that came out this year that everyone loved,
Balatro.
Balco. Balatra. You could play that on an iPhone. So what I'm saying is that you have this technology that is enabling more people to play things better. That the expectation that if you spend $2,000, $3,000 on a video card, your card is going to run better is not true. Is not true. In fact, it may run it worse, and it may even melt your system because we don't live in that world anymore. We live in optimization. And this is fantastic. This is great. This is the revolution. And yeah, maybe FSR and super sampling and DLSS, maybe it's a little overstated, but I can tell you from personal experience, it literally, and I use this term literally, it is a game changer. And if they can staple this technology onto something like the Switch 2, then that is going to be a revolution. I'm not saying that Switch 2 is as powerful as a PlayStation. I'm not saying that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think you're going to see performance on the Switch 2 within 2-3 years that does rival the PlayStation 5. It doesn't matter how many polygons it's running. It doesn't matter. What matters is what do you think it's doing? Like, what does it look like on the screen? And it's going to look really, really similar. And that's a revolution. That's it. That's real innovation. And I think that's great. I think I'm excited. I'm really
Yep.
excited to see what this is going to be like.
So with all that being said, I wanted to touch on two more things, and then we're going to kind of sign off here. One, we're just going to do very, very lately. Google celebrates 10 years of Google Photos, and they offer some new AI editing stuff. Was there anything in particular you wanted to say about that, or just congratulations to Google for not killing something for 10 years?
I was going to say that was it. It's like Google products are like dog years. It's like 10 years for Google is like 100 million years for Apple because they didn't kill it. And if you know anything about Google Photos, they've gone through a lot of iterations to get to this point. And even I know Google Photos is pretty good. I don't use it a lot. I don't use any cloud backup, but I've used Google Photos before. Pretty good. Like it's
I
one of the hallmarks.
I never really used it, but then I switched to a Google phone,
Yeah,
and
with
I've been using it a
Gemini,
lot.
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually love it. It's great, and especially like I have stopped deleting photos just because I'm lazy and I don't want to go through and organize my photos. Being able to search with AI through my photos, I
Hmm.
don't have like a lot of photos. I have like maybe 5 to 6,000, which sounds like a lot, but after 15 years, I'm sure people have way more than that than I do. But yeah, I can just search dog, or I can search, a house or something like that, and I can get the pictures just to pull up right away. Like it's very simple, and I love it.
Yeah, and every time I install Google Drive for my desktops, whatever, they always ask me, "Do you want to integrate Google Photos?" And I say, "Nah, I'm okay." But the thing about it though with Google though, like the fact that they've not killed a product because it wasn't perfect. They've iterated. Like I really wish they would do more stuff like this. Like I I do think that in 10 years we're going to be looking at stuff like this, and we're going to be like Photoshop is not for everybody. Like, digital video is not for everybody. Like AI is very appropriate in something like this.
Hmm.
But I will say this. I will say this. Part of me is a little depressed, because I look at people when they edit photos, and they're always editing like a person out, or they're fixing something. And it's like you don't want, like, I get it. You want a memory, but you don't want a memory. You want what you think it looked like. And I'm depressed. I wish people would be happier with the flawed photos, but what do I know?
Yeah, and I feel the same way to a smaller extent. And then we're gonna move on to King of the Hill revival. But I just want to say real quick that I feel the same way with smartphones by default turning on like skin smoothing and glowing,
Yeah.
and some of the other things that just don't show a picture as it was, and that I think is its own problem. But hey, that's just probably
I
me being a fuddy duddy. So
Well, again, I'm not blaming AI. In fact, the technology is quite awesome if you think about it. But it just seems like what they've latched onto. They remember I talked to you about fantasy books and stuff
hmm
like that. How they've genreized it is they've found a way to do the same evil, manipulative, like nonsense that the fashion industry does, where they've got women into technology by making them feel inferior and giving them self-consciousness. Like, you could be pretty if you turn this filter on, or we can fix your photos. Like, they use the same language that makeup and plastic surgeons use. Like, they say, "Oh, show your best self, and we're going to edit all this stuff out." And they're basically saying, "Oh, you're so beautiful, but you could be better." And I noticed this on fashion. I noticed this on a lot of things where they sell poison as self-esteem. And I think it's just, again, what do I know? But I know that every single female billionaire that didn't inherit their money on this planet got there through fashion and makeup. And it's a huge industry, and I just feel really sad about it.
it's the rise of social media, and actually we used to have an article on it on Computer America, but yeah, we did a little article, probably need to do a new one about the pros and cons of social media, and one of them is
Mhm.
definitely body image and self-esteem, and that kind of
Yeah,
thing is something to really watch out for. But hey, that's
yeah,
for another time.
yeah.
Let's kind of wrap up with this, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Popzara. But
Hmm.
our last story is going to be something fun and King of the Hill revival, because King of the Hill, much beloved, and
Hmm.
it's I would say it's not very often, but actually, thanks to shows like Futurama and whatnot, getting the original cast, getting the original showrunners, getting the
Most of them.
original, yeah,
Some of them,
most of them.
some have died. Some half the cast died.
True, and
Yeah.
and just having a show from the aughts or the 90s or whatever get reborn as a new iteration with as much of the original people and talent behind it, seems to be a thing. Give them a second chance at life. And honestly, I watched a lot of King of the Hill probably after it was popular, like
Yeah.
once it hit Adult Swim is when I really started
Hmm.
watching it.
Really
But
fun.
like,
Really good show.
yeah, but like, it ended so well. And you spoke a little bit about this before the show, where they're not just picking up where the last episode ended. They're doing a time skip, they're doing a time jump.
Hmm.
And what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what. Mike Judge is a genius, and I know we talked before the show that you said you never watched Beavis and Butthead.
Yep.
Beavis and Butthead was one of those shows that people, the adults, they criticized it for being this and that and stupid, but it wasn't. It was actually quite brilliant. And as it went on, it got even smarter and smarter. It was a good commentary. And of course, it ended, and they've revived. And a couple of years ago, Mike Judge revived it, I think on Paramount, with a movie and a show. And one of the features was, in some of the segments, he aged the characters up until they were middle-aged, and it was brilliant. And I was so scared when they talked about reviving King of the Hill, because again, what's her face? The one who played Luann, she passed away. The guy who played Dale just passed away. And I said to myself, characters never age in cartoons, right? And when this revival showed up, they confirmed it with this thing that the characters have aged. You could see from that screenshot, but if you watch the thing, you could see like the time is skipping. So Hank's going to be older. Bobby's older. I don't know the state of anything else, but that's kind of cool. Like, Judge is brilliant. Mike Judge is absolutely brilliant. He doesn't get the credit from, I think, older people, but if you look at his catalog of what he's done, even from Office Space to Idiocracy, even to his leather stuff, he's doing what needs to be done to innovate. You want to talk about innovation? This is innovation. Like, let the characters get older. Let them age. That's pretty cool. The only parallel I can tell you that would be a comic strip called For Better For Worse. Like, I think, and where the characters got older in real time and they died and they got married. And I don't know what King of the Hill is going to be like. I don't know what this new show is going to be like, but I think the world needs Hank Hill in it. I think we could use a little more Hank Hill and his propane and propane accessories.
Well said.
But,
and my only, like, from liking a lot of what Mike Judge has done, I have high hopes. I'm going to watch it. We'll see what happens. The only negative thing I have about him is when I went to college for the first time and I had to take my electives, and one of them was theater, which I had to take multiple times because I failed it multiple times because the teacher, the professor, don't like him. But anyways, he name dropped Mike Judge about 20 times a semester, and I took his class multiple times, and he did it every semester because he was good friends with the guy who made King of the Hill, and he name dropped constantly. So it's no fault to Mike Judge, but my God, someone out there is using his clout.
Did he like Mike Judge, or did he not like Mike Judge?
No, he was good friends with him. He worked with them. He was a university professor that did university plays and did not have his own TV show. So he rode on Mike Judge's coattails. So
I would say this with professors and everything else. Like, sometimes I get it. You're a fan and you like things, or maybe you're a critic and you don't like things. But don't waste 10 seconds trying to convince somebody that somebody's good, or don't waste 10 seconds trying to convince somebody that somebody's bad. Because once you do that, once you realize that other people have opinions, and I think literature does this a lot, like people with English literature, they force books on you. Oh, you have to read The Great Gatsby. Oh, you must read this. Why? Because I had to. That's what it was. I had to read it, so you're going to have to read it. But why is it good? Like, I don't know. Ernest Hemingway has a great quote about this. I can't quote it because there's swears in it. But people kept talking about the old man and the sea. And he says, there's no symbolism. It's an old man.
Yeah,
it's the sea.
Old man fishing. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody who tells you different is full of crap, right? And that's Ernest Hemingway. Slow clap. He's one of the best ones. But like, that's why with King of the Hill, I'm not going to read any of the reviews. I'm gonna watch it myself. But I will say this: I thought the Beavis and Butthead revival was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, like better than the original show. But that couldn't have happened without the time skip. So.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying.
And by the way, I was just poking around Mike Judge's Wikipedia page, and turns out he was actually an executive producer of Exploding Kittens on Netflix. So who knew?
They sell toys for that show in Walmart. It's crazy.
Yeah, I actually liked it. It actually was a very decent 7 out of 10 show for me. Like, it was watchable. It was watchable.
So will you be watching King of the Hill revival?
Of course. I have fond memories of it, and I'm sure a lot of people do. I mean, hey, you got to cash in on that nostalgia. And
do they say when it comes out? Do they say when it comes out?
This year. That's all they said. So teaser trailer. I'm sure within the next couple of months we'll have an actual air date, but it'll be this year. So
we'll see. I mean, I don't give a fig about most revivals because I think Phineas and Ferb just got rebooted, and it's the same thing. Just characters never age. They're still. Can I say something before I go? Last thought of all.
Sure.
We talked about shows. We talked about shows being canceled. I would say the most successful show being rebooted of all time happened in the 60s. There's been a bunch, but the most successful one was the Jetsons. The Jetsons came out after the Flintstones, was not a hit. Had 2 seasons in the early 60s, canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went into syndication for 25 years. The kids started watching it in the 80s on TV. The show became a phenomenon. It was so popular, they got the whole team back like 20 years later. They got all the voice actors back after 20 years, revived it, even made a movie. But if you watch it, if you watch the new Jetsons, because people don't know, Jetsons is not a 60s show, it's an 80s show now. Half the cast died making the movie. They died in the studio. They had to go to hospital beds. You watch Elroy and everything.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Mel Blanc had to come in and film and record some of the dialogue because the people were dying making it. They were in their 90s. But if you watch it, like poor Elroy, who's supposed to be a 6-year-old boy, voiced by a 90-year-old man, and it's just like,
I mean,
hey, Dad.
At least they had the Swiss Army knife that was Mel Blanc. I mean,
Mel Blanc, yeah, and then he died making it. So it's like maybe the universe is trying to tell you something. But you see, it took 25 years for the Jetsons to catch on. Hell, Family Guy was canceled 5 times? No, Family Guy was canceled 3 times. Futurama was canceled 5 times. And they're all back. So you know what? Life finds a way, as Jeff Goldblum said.
Absolutely.
Life finds a way.
So, speaking of finding a way through life, before we go, you mentioned you had a podcast on Popzara. Let's end with something Popzara related.
There we go.
Anything your writers have written that you want to highlight, or the podcast?
Getting into a lot of stuff coming out. Like I said, Ethan Brehm and I did a podcast about 2 early sci-fi Steven Spielberg family drama films that actually have a lot in common. I suggest if you're not going to listen to our podcast, shame on you. But if you don't want to listen to it, just go watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Watch E.T. They hold up really well, especially E.T. If you haven't watched E.T. in a while, you're going to cry.
Isn't it just a giant ad for Reese's Pieces?
No, kind of. They wanted M&Ms, and Hershey said no. And so they got Reese's Pieces and a big miss. But the movie's great. Both hold up really well, especially E.T. E.T. is something else. I don't want... 20 years after E.T. came out, Spielberg made a remaster. He put CG in it. He took the guns out.
He loves doing that. He loves doing the remasters.
And you know what? And to his credit, you know what he said? Whoops, I screwed up. And he changed it all back. And so there we go. So even Spielberg messes up once in a while. But yeah, that's a good podcast. I really recommend it. So
there you go. Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, and Nathan, we're going to go ahead, wrap it up here. We're going to start the music in the background there that you can hear. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out anything that we talked about and be like, what the heck were they even talking about? We're going to have it in the show notes. We'll have links to all the articles that we pulled from, and of course, links to Popzara if you want to go check out what they do over there. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for tuning into the program and joining us on a nice, relaxing, and quite honestly, can I say this? It was fun, Nathan, to have you on once again. Always fun. And thank you so much for joining us here on Computer America.
See, Star Wars, you can be fun still. It's possible.
There you go. All you have to do is be so bad that you're fun to talk about how bad you are. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you want to find out more, computeramerica.com. We will catch you here next time. And everyone, do not let... Well, no, that's not it. May your hard drive never become floppy. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Catch you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.